and now we're coming back for the test of it, pretty much, is what we're doing, right? So if we are to have a test of it, and if it's not going to not hold and go lower, then that test is going to happen from here, right? That means that we could have that deeper pullback and then finally see it take off, because theoretically at the same time, we've already had the markup. And if you want to see something, like, I'm pretty sure if we just use the range idea, right, if we projected that range, let's just try it really quick, just check it out, see what happens to the high. So actually it hasn't even projected the range forward yet. So as you guys know, we might still have that bullish potential. And you know, if that is to be put into place, it's going to be from here. So of course I want to be bullish, and the bullish plays that I take are going to be plays that I want to hold longer, right? Like in here, I mean, you guys saw this. Let's go into the 1 minute. Let's go and open the random shit, right? So what you'll see is, I mean, all these buys from the very first buy I took right here, my take profits were, God, fuck, in Africa. Like they were just off. They were off in space. Like they were super far, because I expect the buys to hold on for the potential last or into new structural highs completely, right? And as a result, when I get into a buy, that area can be a potential final low before that actually happens. So you know, every buy I take, I want a partial, but I also want to hold it for the completely new highs higher. So I mean, my bias hasn't changed on EU. My bias has remained the same since we've looked at like I said, since COVID. Since COVID, I've been expecting bullish price action to take out these highs here. That's it. So most of my buys are going to be flavored in that direction, of course, unless we're working in some kind of crazier range. But overall, we're just tapping into this last demand zone right now. And again, it's been mitigated, and there's some of it that's mitigated. And again, if we go and find it on lower time frames, there's probably other places of it that are not mitigated, right? But I want to see it go higher. And yes, these are the 4-hour highs you're talking about right here. The fact that this one didn't break, and it did break down, you know, the reason that happened is because it was just mitigating the last supply zone in here to the pretty much to 100% before dropping lower, right? So yes, it's still bearish. And if it is going to be bullish, you know, I'm going to have bullish price action to be targeting mentfx blocks here and potentially even higher demand zones, right, to get up into there, because easily it could do this and then come back into here and then give this as a multi-level accumulation that then validates and begins to really take off, right? There's so many things that can happen with this. You just need to understand how to anticipate almost all of them, right? Just as that can happen, instead of this happening, we could easily have this happen, right? And we can finally run the highs. And if we do, then after we run those highs, guess what? We could have it distribute and come back into there and then accumulate, right? Those are all possibilities. These are footprints we are working with. We are never, I'm not going to get on here and say, all right, guys, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, and you'll be good. Millions of dollars. Like, this could happen too. And if it does, wow, I'm a genius, right? But also, at the same time, now any of those other 4 things that I just said can happen, right? So that's what we're looking at it. Because, you know, on the 4-hour, we're still breaking lower. But we've also broken very deep into, from this structural point, you know, from this mentfx block, and we haven't really mitigated any of it. So if we are going to have bullishness, we can at least expect that bullishness to come up into these areas. Now, if we don't, it can still keep dropping, right? We're never 100% sure, but that's how I'm just viewing it. So I'm still good with the buys. On that, 30 minutes, what do we have? We have some supply zones here. If we are to see sells from here, I will look for those. I'm happy with those sells. However, the second we get above here, I'm pretty much going to shift bullish until we get up into these areas here, ultimately, unless that is invalidated again, right? Because what we'll be putting in is multi-level confirmation on lower time frames and shifts. We're going to be putting in new structure breaks on multiple time frames here too, and putting in new mentfx blocks higher. And then we can potentially look for buys off of that to go higher. So hopefully that helped answer that. You can tell his coffee is kicking in. He starts speaking faster and faster. I haven't actually drank any coffee today yet, so that's a good. Everyone take a sip. I'm pausing for a second. Hold on. Oh fuck, the nectar of the gods. God damn. All right, now we're awake. Can you explain the double MB? Yeah, it's a move down. So let's say you have this, right? You have the final move down, and that's caused by that to here. Then what you'll have is that broken, right? So that's one mentfx block now. Then the double MB is just this happening again. So you're going to look for the move that comes to mitigate this, and usually it'll come to the 50, right? That's what we'll usually see. You'll see a larger move that comes into the 50. That's the mitigation of that. Now, as this happens, the high that created this low into this mentfx block is this high on this time frame, right? So what you're expecting is that if price is to trade above here, that is a double MB confirmation. You can buy at the open, or you can buy on the mitigation into the 50%, right? Or you could have looked inside here for the mentfx block or Wyckoff schematic confirmations, right? So even when I draw normal price action to you out, you can see how you can already like see these things happening, right? This is also something that can answer the question of, will this happen forever? Yes, because it's just it's just price movement up and down. Like the only way I see this stopping working, like everything that we do, literally is the only way I see this not working anymore is if price starts to move like this, like in a ball-like fashion. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no ever any pullbacks, and if that happens, then you buy here, or you just buy here, and you just let it keep happening. Now the second it stops happening, we're gonna start seeing Wyckoff occur, is what I'm trying to say, right? So the only time what we do is gonna stop working is if prices just start going like up in a ball-like fashion. If they do that, just buy. And if they don't do that, you're going to have price movement and manipulation, right? Beautiful. There you go. You're set, right? Anton naturally talks at 1.25x on YouTube. True, but I know some of you watch me faster anyway too, so maybe I gotta speed up. How do you partial a trade? You close part of it. So like, if you're in MetaTrader, if you just double click your trade that's open, you can type in a lot size that's slower than the lot size you opened at and click close partial. It'll let you close that. Otherwise, just look this up. This is normal MT4 like stuff that you find online and stuff. So just make sure you check that out. Christopher, identify carries in the market where price could potentially shift. Oh yeah, this is for if you're talking about the accumulations distributions and how to know which one. Yeah. Oh, how do you actually if you're actually asking about where to partial, structure, supply and demand zones, unmitigated ones, or other areas where you could potentially expect a different bias to come in to the market, right? Or you've tested your own strategy long enough to know that most of your trades run 1 to 10, so you partial at 1 to 10, right? Something like that. I don't know. I'm gonna buy right now for Bitcoin on the 1 minute. Oh yeah? You want me to come grab your stop loss real quick? Hold on. I'm coming for it, bro. Let's see where you got involved. Off this Wyckoff. Or off this Wyckoff. Yeah, it's not bad. It could still easily, right? So even though he's buying here and I'm selling into it, he could easily take a run up into maybe these equal highs and have partials there, into this high, have partials there, even have this high and partial there, because this can easily make a run back up into some areas up here before that drop, right? So that's fine. There could be buys in here. I'm not going to study them too in depth right now because I'm not trading Bitcoin anyway. So, and I have to see what you're looking at on this side. Because I wouldn't just buy an accumulation, right? Unless I had an area that was already drawn in here, and I said, if price was to stop here, I want to look for buys, then I wouldn't be looking for buys here at all. Now, if you had that, and then buys are being presented to you, fantastic. Like, that's great. If price breaks above a mentfx block and wicks into it several times before retracing the 50% mark, does those wick make the MB invalid? No, those wicks do not make it invalid. Right? Usually, a lot of the time, mentfx blocks will already have mitigations at the open as it's created. That's very normal. That's almost always going to happen. So you can still expect a larger mitigation of it because remember, it's showing you multiple orders. So the fact that it's mitigating the open is showing you that one, it's mitigating some orders, but there are also orders in it that are deeper lodged. And because if you're expecting a certain order flow shift or you're expecting order flow to hold, that buy doesn't look that good right now, and you're expecting that order flow to shift and remain shifted in a certain direction, then you're supposed to expect that MB as its last real supply or demand zone is going to hold, right? Is going to hold. Jesus. Yeah, my voice is gone after section 3, guys. Like, I feel like I was screaming at you guys. I didn't mean to do it, if any of you feel that, but I was having fun, and I thought it'd be really helpful, so... I think we're accumulating now on the 1 minute Bitcoin. Yeah, we might be. Thanks. I understand the concept. I don't know how to manually do it. I will look it up. Yeah, definitely. That's good. Perfect. Took my first partial. Oh, right, exactly. So yeah, like I said, you probably had your first partial already taken. Beautiful. Well done. Exactly, and that's what I mean. Like, even in this market, if you were to say, yo, I'm buying right now, I'd be like, fuck no, I don't want to buy this shit. But for you, your eyes are pinpointed to that one area that you want to partial at, that you're happy with, that you're good with the entry, and that's going to work fine, right? Like, that's just how it is. We can trade back and forth, guys. Just swap the money, you know? Soon it's just going to be mentfx and we'll all just be trading money back and forth. No one's going to be making anything or losing anything. We'll be all break-even traders. I've read that point and figure can help estimate the markup. Listen. I have tried to understand point and figure and find ways to do it without having to take out a real notebook and like mark it all up, and I couldn't. If you go, Sergio, and you figure out how to do point and figure properly and go and find proper Wyckoff schematics that we trade ourselves at mentfx and can project them with proper like good areas of partials that make sense, bro, I will hire you to teach people point and figure because I don't understand that shit at all. All right, I'll just be real with you. I don't know how to do it. I'm so confused by it. When did you first start trading? Like 11 years ago. So long ago. You answered my question already without realizing. Let's go. I think it was like 10 years ago. Yeah. He started trading 10 years? Yes, guys. You all know me. We love it. Did you think an accumulation is happening on the 5-minute for Bitcoin USD? Maybe. Like I said, if we are to see accumulation, I would be looking for it to happen in Hyun, basically, kind of this area. However, we just tapped into a 4-hour, right? So sometimes I'll do this like 4 hours highs and lows, just understanding where I'm in a range because it helps me deal with the lower time frames. We just tapped into a 4-hour supply zone, so because of that, I'd want to see a bigger push down, right? That's why I'm not expecting this one to hold. Now, again, it could hold and it could come and make new highs, which would mean we're going to start putting in new order flow direction completely into Bitcoin, pretty much, on the 4-hour. Do you think of moving from FTMO to the prop trading? I'm trying to move from both to a personal fully. Okay. You think of moving? Yeah, so I'm thinking I want to move to a personal completely. I don't want to keep going the prop trading way, but I do think the prop trading is great. However, they do have spreads that are a little bit larger, if I'm not mistaken. However, they said that they are working on them or something. And also, I'm not 100% sure if they're like legit yet. Again, it was the same way people thought about FTMO. So, you know, nobody believed FTMO, and now everyone does. I think it's the same thing with FTMO. I mean, with the prop trading now. So, I mean, just like, I'm sure they're fine, but, you know, just be careful. Just be aware that they're very new. The POI on the left. Yeah, I know what you're looking at. I'm guessing you're looking at this. I imagine the spreads would be crazy with large trades. Yes, but not if you're trading like a 1-hour chart or a 15-minute chart. You can put like 1,000 lots even. No, like much more. Like you can put 10K lots without any real like big spread in if you're on a 15-minute, right? That spread's going to be a lot bigger if you're trading the 1-minute and 30-second charts, of course, and higher commission, so you have to like actually let it run. But it's all good. More RR. Yeah, if you're talking about the lower time frames. When you become an FTMO trader, will you get a real account with them or a demo? Demo. You get demo. Because it's connected to their real. Like, they don't actually give you real money, but it's connected to their real accounts. Now, what are the criteria to be a funded member in your Discord community? Get funded with FTMO. If you get funded, just send me, like, proof that you got funded, and you get the golden name. And hopefully down the line, we're gonna like, increase the type of things that gold name people can do. And we'll see about, future gold name, what's it called? Benefits. Criterias are get funded. Yeah. Definitely ask this after the webinar and the brokers and prop firms. Yeah, we can definitely ask about FTMO and prop trading. People would be happy to tell you their experiences and what they think are better and whatever. As most of us will become funded, our strategy has to make at least 10% per month. I mean, no, it only has to do it for the verification. That's all. You know, just up your percentage risk a little bit for the verification, whatever you got to do, or the challenge, if that's something that you got to do, if you can't make the 10% a month or whatever, or and then you can go back to, you know, gradually growing if you want to. If you don't like if you don't like the type of requirements that are required of you to make this 10% a month. How many keyboards do you go through? I only have one, bro. What time frames do you stick to? All of them. But trading wise, the 1 minute and all the way down to the 5 second. That's been the best one. Yeah, that was a good one. Would you only use supply or demand zone that has already been mitigated if it causes a break of structure? Yes. if a supplier demand zone caused a break of structure and it's been mitigated, I'll still sometimes use it. Just because, just because it's been mitigated doesn't mean it's not going to be mitigated again, or there's not orders left in there that need to be mitigated. So definitely, if there's an area of importance, like for instance, that daily one right now on EU, right? The one that I'm looking at, it's already been mitigated, but this one caused this break, which actually caused a price action that came to break even higher, right? So if you were to just disregard this because of this, well, maybe you're right, and then it just breaks down and you're happy. But on the other end, if it's the one that actually holds this buy, you might not be able to get into the buys down here that actually end up in the larger runs, right? The skeleton retail trader, yeah, that one is really good. If I'm blowing a fucking fart, but for POIs, which demand zones and supply zones would be advisable versus target for future Wyckoff to accumulate and distribute? Which ones would you target? Well, for instance, let's say I got a buy here, right? What would I be targeting on this buy? Well, first of all, I'd be targeting normal structural highs, but also I'd be targeting the 4-hour zones in here and I wouldn't be closing the entire thing because, even though this whole thing here, for instance, is a mentfx block, or you can go and refine that to your last thing here, whatever, right? Doesn't mean that price is going to go like this and then break. It can also mean that price is going to come here, you can partial, and then you can have a big thing that comes back and then continues higher, right? Or it can come up here and just come and take out all the highs, right, really quickly. Targeting, you don't just target a POI to close your trade unless it's part of an already predefined strat. So, for instance, if you were very bearish on this without even caring about the higher time frame, and you believe that, like, with almost 100% certainty, that if price gets here, you're going to see bearish price action, then buys from here should only be targeted to this last point, right? So, it's just, you just target the POIs that are within your ranges of your bias and your structure, right? Your structural moves. Got to keep our eyes open. What do you expect long term for Bitcoins? I made that video a long ass time ago, and I said, or even in one of the webinars, I don't remember, and I said we're bullish on it until smart money tells us otherwise. And guess what? Since then, it's gone to what, 55K? Yeah, and we're still bullish on it. Like, there's nothing to not be bullish about. Like, you go to Bitcoin, ask yourself, where are we? Yeah, we're having this bearish push. Okay, great. Where are we, though? We're in this bullish push. Okay, where can we keep seeing bullishness from? Here. Or here. If these don't hold, we can see that bearishness, but we're still bullish. And in the monthly lower areas, we will expect bullishness, right? I'm bullish on Bitcoin, just like I'm bullish on EU, right? It's like the exact same way that I'm bullish on EU, I'm bullish on Bitcoin right now, right? It's just about what's order flow telling you, and just follow that. We don't need to be like the pioneers of the future trying to predict if Bitcoin's going to be the future currency or any of that nonsense, right? We look at the price and we trade it. Can I check out Australian dollar, US dollar? Sure. Let's take a look at AUD USD on the daily. Oh, accumulating. It's in a very, very low demand zone, created equal lows. So most likely, it's going to come clear it. Might have a run up into some point here, but it also has equal highs. Oh, no, it doesn't. It took it out. So there might be a Wyckoff in here. So it might have one more move back up into some supply zones here and then keep dropping. But overall, I would have been looking for buys in here because, we've been bullish, still bullish. This could have been a break you might have considered, but if you're, again, using mentfx blocks, you know that you're an overall structural buy still higher. You go to a weekly. Oh, we're tapping into some supply zone up here, okay? Monthly. Okay, so we're tapping into a supply zone that's been mitigated. That's why we're having mitigation. So, there could be some reason for a real pullback into some deeper demand zones. So to expect the clearing of those equal lows is not crazy, but also you would have already been looking at that demand zone on that daily for buys, and I think it actually presented a very nice schematic. I think there's a schematic in here you could have used. There might have been one that you might have thought happened, and then you might have found buys in here. They might have been stopped out, or you might have been able to partial them. There might have been buys in here that you might have made good money on, and then there were buys in here that you've been doing great on, having reaccumulations or whatever because you're expecting bullish prices. And I'm guessing like a higher time frame Wyckoff is happening, right? Sun Climax, AR, ST, STB, Spring. We've just validated it somewhat impulsively. Maybe we have this pullback and keep seeing bullish price action, right? So we can see. Why you don't care about fundamentals and news? Because they are fully reflected in price. They're already factored in. They're not important. You can, in Wyckoff's book, his original one, he spoke about how understanding price itself and, whether you're undergoing proper accumulation or distribution based on whatever your variety of factors, you can predict famine, you can predict war, you can predict potential deals that are made between governments without ever having any news released about it or having the news press coverage released about it after the fact. It can all be predictable by viewing price, right? EU traded back into a demand zone back in March in 2020, right? Now, no matter what, it was going to tap into that, mitigate it, and then have retracements higher. Now, the news that actually led to that happening could have been a variety of factors. It could have been Trump being killed, could have been it could have been a hurricane hitting America, it could have been an earthquake, it could have also been COVID. And guess what? COVID is the catalyst that allowed for those orders to be mitigated on that monthly demand zone and had prices go and make new highs. That's all, though, right? It was nothing more than the catalyst for something that was already predetermined to happen. If you look at the monthly and you actually study what occurred here, here's your demand zone. After large breaks of structure, after an overall accumulation, price came back down into it, mitigated it, and COVID dropped. We had the run up, right? It's the fundamentals are priced into all of price action. We don't use them because they're predictable and derivable from here, and they're also calculated, right? So whenever they do happen, the move of it happening is fully calculated. And again, like I said, this news right here could have been any type of bad news that really led into this big rally. It just so happened to be COVID. That's all. Sorry, I gotta go bye. All right, peace, man. What do I do if all my trades take off without tagging me in? If all of them take off without tagging you in, find out by how much they never tag you in by, and increase your entry to that area. And there's your edge. Right? It just means you're probably over refining some areas, I'm guessing. I don't know. After this, feel free to at me in some of your trades, like just post some of them, and let me see what happens and where you're trying to get involved. I want to see if you are over refining, and if you are, where could you have used to get in? If you did use mentfx block instead of instead of a refined area, would you have gotten involved? Right? You just have to ask yourself these questions. Like, if you find that you never get tagged in, literally, and the only time you do get tagged in, you lose, then you got to change up the strategy, right? But your edge will be the fact that you understand how to analyze your points to the place where you then just have to increase your entry by X amount of pips, and you're set to actually get tapped into every single setup that you look for. Because the other question is, oh no, actually, yeah, that's it. Tapped into a 4-hour demand zone. I don't know what this was on. I think this was on Bitcoin. Oh, you had a Bitcoin zone. Yeah, okay. If this is what we were talking about, Christopher, if I don't remember correctly. Chase them 2-1. No, I'm joking. I saw you call like 60R the other week or some shit. Yeah, I was crazy. But again, as you all know, 60R is not 60%. We love our RRs, and we know that we can catch huge RRs. And for some of you that actually hold those RRs, it's absolutely insane. But if you're partially and you're doing it properly, even your 60 RRs could make up for 1%, 3%, 4% on a balance. And that's normal, based on how it is that you're managing these positions. Actually, in video 3, I did feel like I was being yelled at. Yeah. I'll try to study point of figure and let you know if I will come to something interesting. All right, cool, man. Thank you. Yeah, because I don't understand them at all. They're so confusing. Charts are now live. Oh, fantastic. Let's go take a look at what's going on. Okay, so nothing crazy. Still expecting bullishness overall. Still want to see this get cleared. I still want to see sells from these points here. So again, like start of the week, again, same thing goes. Nothing crazy. Everything beforehand. Looking for prices to come and keep making highs. Look to distribute in here or here to be in line with what? Continuous bearish pressure off of the bearish pressure we've seen from the last week. Now, if that isn't to hold and we are to break these, what we're actually starting to do is we're putting in new structural highs and new mentfx block shifts to the higher side of price action. Now, there could be just a liquidity grab, and then it could keep going. And in that case, it's unfortunate, but we're also not going to see confirmation to get into buys on its way down, right? Now, if that doesn't happen, and we are preset for those buys like we want to be, those buys are pretty much preset to go and run at least into this mentfx block, but more importantly into, as you guys know, the 4-hour areas up in this zone here. And again, you can go and refine some areas in there, but the expectation would be that we'd want to see a run up into there. At that point, sells in here, that's what I would be looking for, is overall sells from here. But more likely than not, we are going to see a run of the liquidity here and the liquidity here. And if that happens, we're going to keep expecting structure to unfold bullishly to get into the supply zones on, I think this is a daily. Yep, on the daily, because on the daily, this has broken down structure for a while, and it's only come to test the mentfx block, and it hasn't came to test the real last up moves that haven't had imbalance filled yet, right? So that's what we would expect based on that. And similarly, for all of you that are in a bearish bias, it's not crazy for any of you to expect a continuing bearish bias through all this, and then maybe accumulations here to go higher. Otherwise, if you just think this is going to melt for some reason, if you really think that like we're going for a much deeper retracement into demand zones down here, then you're looking for mini retracements to keep going lower, right? That's pretty much it. And whatever your bias is, you're still going to have relatively similar areas and similar confirmations to get involved on these as it occurs. Let's get rid of some of this. So we're at about an hour and 50 minutes. We're just going to get through the rest of these questions, and then we're going to wrap this up. The point of figure charts hurt my head when I tried studying that. Yeah, they're so complex. Like you either have to go and pay for one of those tools that do it for you, and you can like put in different box sizes and stuff, or you have to go and like actually write it out on grid paper and stuff. And I have no idea how they do that stuff at all. How long take you for you to become consistent? Long time. Don't worry about it. You have this now, so shorter for you. Much. Never. Well, the thing is, I never properly traded in the time I spent 10 to 11 years or whatever learning, right? In that time, I had my binary options like gambles, back and forth, like lose money, make money, all that fun stuff. But it wasn't until about a year and a half ago where I started putting everything like together. I started to actually trade it properly, right? If supply and demand zones mitigated, is your POI at the 50% zone? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I'll go inside it and refine some areas. Doesn't matter. This is, again, like I've said in previous supply and demand videos, it's subjective. If you don't want to use the zones that have been mitigated, you don't have to, because many zones are left invalidated and will function as perfect areas in the future. But like, for instance, even this one right here, that's a zone that I was looking at, even though it's been mitigated, right? So this zone so it looks weird to have this zone highlighted, right? That's the zone I was looking for these buys right here that I confirmed. But it was based on the, I think it was a 15-minute, what was it on? Yeah, so it's based on this 15-minute break of structure that came from, if you notice, this wick. So on this specific time frame, you can see it's unmitigated, right? So that's where it came from. Even though it's mitigated on another time frame, it's unmitigated on this one. So you know there's orders in here that can still be mitigated, and that's where that area was, right? So it's just up to you, honestly. Life is a movie. I just feel like we're in a simulation. Nice, man. Oh, you mean like how prices are predicted? Yeah. It's all calculated, dude. No, honestly, like whoever's at the hands of this, elites, whatever you want to call them, it's all predetermined. Everything that happens in this market is predetermined. And news and all that other stuff is just a catalyst for all that stuff to happen. So, Ilya, to answer your question, about fundamentals and news, it's really just not important at all. I gotta go meet Wyckoff one day and just shake his hand. What a guy, man. Yo, the guy's dead. How would you define over-refining a DZ and SZ? Taking one of a good area where you can really expect a mitigation and refining it so much so that the odds of this area hitting have literally become 1 in 100 and then having it not hit, right? That's over refinement. That's it. FXCM or Rwanda for EU on TradingView. Whatever, doesn't matter. I used to use FXCM. I started using some Rwanda just because the prices I just like how clean the candles look, but at the same time, when candles are cleaner, you're not actually seeing the proper movements of price and potential jumps like this, right? This is a real jump, but Rwanda shows it as fully filled price action. It's just up to you. It doesn't matter. You just have to choose one. Like, if I traded Rwanda versus FXCM, I'd probably have the exact same stuff, though. With the exception of maybe some like the zone I might select might be a little bit different, right? But yeah, FXCM is generally better. I believe they do provide prices and deliver prices a lot better than a Wanda. When using Wyckoff, should I enter on the retest of the spring or enter after the SOS and retest? Well, the thing is, if you're entering the test of a spring, you don't know that area is a spring until the Wyckoff is validated, right? So if you're entering the retest of the spring, you're actually just entering either a mentfx block or just a normal demand zone, right? If you're actually entering the test of the spring, then you're doing that after the SOS already prints. So to answer your question, based on whether or not you want to be trading Wyckoff like purely, if you are trading Wyckoff, then you need to be waiting for the breaks. And if the breaks do happen, the odds of it actually making a move all the way back down into a test are actually much lower than it making just a backup and creating some kind of new Wyckoff in a demand zone or supply zone higher up or lower down, right? What will Section 4 be about? We'll see. Probably psychological side, multiple management side, growth side, stuff like that. I don't know 100% yet, but I'm leaving it open because I do know that there are so many things that we still want to cover. So the Section 4 will be dedicated to that as it kind of is created over time, right? Because I knew the first 3 sections and what I wanted to make them about, so I made sure that you guys had access to those. You gotta meet him in heaven. Nice. Can we take a look at gold? In the weekly, seems like it mitigated demand zone. I'm seeing a bullish. You're seeing bullish price action happen. Gold's probably the same as the others right now, right? If we go and look at the weekly just very quickly. Similarly, you have this. We've been watching this for God knows how much time. We've been looking for buys here from forever. Yeah, this is fine to look for buys here. Again, as I've said before, buys from here are fine. But notice how below it you have inefficiency and you have tons of areas that can still see price action come into. So similarly to EU, we could have this be the actual loads created into new highs that are going to be put into place to run all these highs. On the other hand, we could hold this overall bearish lower time frame price action, right? And come into some supply zones or supply zones up here, right? And as we come into those, we could continue to clear out lower prices to come into the deeper areas. Even though gold is actually bullish overall still on the weekly, it is bearish on the daily and everything below that at this point. Monthly, of course, is bullish. No shit. We had this huge run up. Maybe it shifted a little bit bearish here, but if you use real mentfx blocks or just real structure, just drawing it in, you're still very bullish. And this could be a run down that could come very deep into a weekly bearishness that is then results in accumulation again. And again, like I said about Wyckoff occurring everywhere, right? What is this? That's Wyckoff, right? You have selling climax, AR, ST, STB, potential spring, real spring, right? So for the guy that just asked about entering the test of the spring, would you have entered this test? Well, no, because you'd wait for the break. Real move up, a test happens before breaking, right? Notice that. The real break happens here, and we only get a mini backup. But in here, that area itself is going to be a very, very clear Wyckoff on, since it's a monthly chart, I'm guessing a 8-hour chart or something. So we can go take a look at that very quick, right? Notice what that looks like to you. So Wyckoff isn't as clear as I want it to be. If you got to a higher time frame, actually, maybe it is on daily, maybe. Oh, daily is not too bad. Yeah, so daily is much better. But you can see full-on accumulation occurs here. We get the break up, and then you finally get the SOS into the backup that comes to test the spring, right? So in this case, you could have gotten in on the test if you wanted to do that. We'll get rid of that now. All right, let's finish some of these questions up. What's a good way to identify if a supply zone or demand zone will hold as it is approached? Wyckoff. What have you learned from ICT? Where does Wyckoff work better? And where should be the focus? Well, Wyckoff happens and works everywhere. The best Wyckoffs are the ones that are more of the clear type of schematic that show you the liquidations and show you real impulsiveness coming into the market, which I go over in section 3. What I learned from ICT, a few words that I liked, and the fact that there's liquidity in the market, I guess. But honestly, most knowledge that I have concerning these markets come from like about 1,000 different channels, books, and now mostly myself even. All right. Where does Wyckoff work better? Yeah, so where does Wyckoff work better? I mean, it works absolutely everywhere, like I said, on any time frame. Where should be the focus of Wyckoff? Well, the focus should be on your focus shouldn't be on Wyckoff. Your focus should be on order flow and understanding where you want to see certain things happen, and then using those things to confirm. Why something that happens everywhere should be an advantage? What do you mean, bro? So we'll just work through this last question then, and we'll cut this a little shorter. US30. I'll take a look at US30 while Tiago, if you can specify this for me, I'd like that. I could try and answer that for you. So US30 again. Oh yeah, nice. So we've been expecting overall bullishness. It looks like back from here in January, and we had this big move up, and it came to test some areas here. Came deeper than the area I had refined, so that's kind of sad. From there, we just broken higher. Again, you're expecting it to come into demand zones. That's exactly what it just did. Most likely targeting this high right now and bullish. If it isn't to target that and starts to break down, I would look for structural shifts lower to keep shifting into the lower demand zones here, right? Nothing too crazy on that. If we look at a 4 hour, maybe we can see some more. So 4 hour has shifted somewhat bearish. It has shown us that it wants to go lower. This shifts it bullish from this endpoint, but it's still bearish from here. So if we are to see sells, I'd want to see sells here. This is a fine area to look for sells for. You can go and refine this area on a lower time frame and see how price is playing in here. You can see it's relatively impulsive right now, so probably no Wyckoff is happening just yet. If it does happen, it'll happen in here, and then you can look for bearish price action down, at least to fill in, some inefficiencies down here. So that's perfectly fine. Taking a look at this overall, it came back down into this mentfx block right here, and since then has been traveling higher, right? So after coming to this mentfx block, the move that created that came from either here or here. So again, like I said, we're most likely aiming for this high, right? But we will most likely have some mitigation from this area if you are to look for sells. 4 hour chart, just putting in that price action, that's good. Had a great sell last week inside of here on the 4 hour. Right, we broke down, and there was like basically double mentfx block confirmation plus supply zone, and you probably had a great entry in there on Wyckoff, so you can go study that really quickly to see if that's true. There's probably Wyckoff in there. Other than that, we are making a move back up now after now technically breaking new bullish order flow structure. So, I'm still bullish on this overall. I still want to see clear this, but if we did see really good mitigation from here, that really shows you wants to go lower, then that's fantastic, right? So you can see, never gave us anything yet. It's just kind of in the potential even backup stage, right? So if it is the backup stage, you want to see like a buying climax, AR, ST, and already you're pretty deep. But if you start seeing this happen, you're good to go and look for potential reentries to get into these areas and then even lower, right? But I don't even look at this. So let's see what we got here. I want to make sure we work through all of this. Oh, here we go. It happens everywhere. How can we define a strategy? It pairs with the where should we focus? Section 1 and Section 2. Order flow, structure, supply and demand zones. The fact that it happens everywhere shouldn't be something that you run from, but it's something that you should actually understand is a very good thing for you, because it means that FOMO is no longer an issue, because the price is constantly being manipulated to go into buys, into sells, and sells into buys, right? And when that happens, you can potentially be a participant if your bias is in line with when it occurs. That's why we use it. What's a good way to backtest? The exact same way we've looked at almost any pair today, right? Just going back, finding areas where price is mitigated as per your strategy, and then asking yourself, how would you have gotten involved? Otherwise, replay mode. Otherwise, forward test something with marking something out and seeing how it plays, and ask yourself how you would have gotten involved. Wyckoff is confirmation on the direction of price. So when it occurs in your point of interest, it gives you confirmation to enter a trade without the randomness of getting stopped out as much. Exactly. Could we maybe do a backtest session one day? Sure, but I myself don't even backtest that much. I have this live trading thing, and I'll probably put some more out. But Musa, make sure you check this out, because it's just 2 hours of me looking at just like Bitcoin for fun on the weekend, and I kind of did it live, just going through how I'd be viewing the market. Okay, so just check this out. It can help you with that, because I myself don't necessarily backtest, but I'll be happy to put something together like that in the future. Together. Your POIs are S&D zones and structural shifts. If you don't know what those are, we watch Section 1, Section 2. Yeah, exactly. So make sure you check out Section 1, Section 2, because we're not just Wyckoff traders. We don't just look for Wyckoff and trade it, because, like I said, Wyckoff occurs everywhere. But if you understand what you're looking for and how clean Wyckoff should look and from which areas you're supposed to expect it, then you can become involved in price action, right? It's like same thing with retail. Equal highs, equal lows happen everywhere. Trend lines happen absolutely everywhere. Head and shoulders happen absolutely everywhere. Xylophone patterns, whatever you want to call them, megaphones, happen everywhere. And the second you move to another time frame, they happen even more so. And similarly, I'll ask you, how are you going to trade that? Well, you're not going to trade that. But if you have multiple confirmations, like a fib plus an RSI plus one of these megaphone patterns with a fractal trendline megaphone pattern, you'll trade it, right? It's like retail, but this is a way where you're actually trading with the orders in the market rather than symbols or like shapes on a chart. Wyckoff helps you to be more precise to spot the real moment in which the move will start. Yep. When setting up your stop loss, wouldn't it be better to have an over-refined demand zone or supply zone just to minimize your potential losses, or am I tripping? No, you are. But when you do that, you risk the chance of price never tapping you in. That's the only problem, right? Your R will increase, but the odds of you getting into a trade are going to decrease, right? So over-refining can result in that. Dylan, yes, I think so. But Anton says that happens everywhere, so it gives me the impression that it can be traded randomly. It cannot be. But as you know, you can be a buyer in a selling market or a seller in a buying market and still be profitable based on this happening, because it's literally showing you orders transferring hands. And because you understand how those orders are transferring hands, you're able to properly manage your trades at those levels. Okay? So again, Tiago, make sure you check out Section 1 and Section 2 and partner that with Wyckoff, because like I said, at a retail perspective even, or almost any way that you can trade, everything happens everywhere. Okay, if you want to go into almost any market, I can show you trend lines, I can show you head and shoulders that happen fractally at every single point in the market. And unless you partner those with other strategies and other abilities to manage trades, you're not going to be profitable doing it. Similarly, Wyckoff himself didn't just trade Wyckoff. He understood price underwent this in all areas. So what he did is he traded the manipulation of one stock compared to another stock, as well as volume confirmation, as well as certain Wyckoff confirmation with trade management along the way. So he didn't just take Wyckoff and say, okay, I'm trading Wyckoff. No, he added a variety of tools to it to confirm where Wyckoff is happening and if he's happy with the Wyckoff that's happening to get involved in potential trades. Okay. You have already a POI to look at. Heading out, see you all on the charts this week. Good luck, everyone. Thanks again. Thank you, dude. See ya this week. So basically, with POI, structure shift Wyckoff and enter. Wait, wait for POI. Yeah, structure shift Wyckoff and enter. I mean, yeah, that's basically it. You understand where order flow is heading. You understand where you are, whether you're in a bullish or bearish market. You expect certain things from certain areas based on your supply and demand zones that have orders unmitigated inside of them. And then as price approaches it, it either is undergoing the transfer of those buys and the sells, or sells and the buys, or it's not. And if it does undergo it, then the odds and the probability of you being involved in a trade that is in line with smart money after liquidations occur are going to be higher probability. And you can manage that along the way as per structure, or you can go and refine that to fractal setups. Most of my losses are liquidity grabs above SZ or DZ. Any tips? Wait for Wyckoff. Definitely. I was told by another mentor to just look for the spring during Wyckoff and you'll be good, but I never understood why. Yeah, because it's nothing more than the last grab of liquidity until price breaks down. Exactly. But when you understand the actual phases of Wyckoff as it undergoes and you know where you're looking for it, then you know with a higher probability chance if you're actually undergoing the transfer of orders, right? And that's very big. Awesome, Anton. Thanks for your explanation. Of course, man. I'm happy that I explained it. Again, if you have any more questions concerning it, please feel free to at me in the chat over the week. I'm always in there, always answering whenever I can. So feel free just to at me if you have questions. If you see Wyckoff and you have a question about it, feel free to ask that too. But yeah, generally, you're fully correct in the fact that it happens everywhere, right? Like, and how can we use that? Well, the idea is think about any strategy you've ever traded, whether it's profitably or not, and ask yourself if that type of setup occurred everywhere. And the answer is almost always yes. And that's because the market is fractal in its own nature, and these strategies wouldn't exist if it wasn't something that repeated. Now, when you have something like that, there's a number of things that you sometimes have to put together to have it actually give you proper setups, right? I don't say that retail is unsuccessful, because they are. There's a lot of retail traders that, have a perfect sound management system that lets them overall make a net positive over a month or over a year. And sometimes, it can exclude stuff like this, right? They have an RSI. They say, I'm waiting for divergence. They see divergence on the RSI. This is going lower and price is moving higher. Now, as price is moving higher, they want to see a trend line with 2 touches. Now, if they don't see a trend line with 2 touches, they won't get involved. But if they see a trend line and divergence, now they're good. But on top of that, not only do they want to see that, but they also want to have a fib from here to here. And not only do they want to fib, but they also want to see it hit the 61 or 62% level. And not only do they want to see the 62% level get hit, but they also want to zoom in on that 62% level. And if they see equal lows get made with a candle that engulfs with momentum the previous candle, they'll get involved. That is a rule-based system that is based on something that happens everywhere in the market, put together into a bias by correlating it with a number of other things. Right? Does that make sense? So there's multiple ways, of course, to trade the market, and there's multiple things you can see in it. But the best way that you can do that, because you understand it happens all the time, is to have a preset bias from other tools. And when those other tools are in line with what smart money or what bigger institutions and players in the market can do, the likelihood of what you're doing to succeed is much higher, right? And it's not more random. Like, for instance, something like this is. Right? And and what's interesting is when you take something like this and think about what this actual setup means, in itself, this could be its own smart money explanation for what's going on, right? It could be something like order flow shifting bullish. You have an area where you have Wyckoff occur and potentially have equal lows in this case. So it might be a type 2 schematic. And as you see momentous breaks, you're leaving behind demand zones and you're trading them, right? There's other ways you can explain this, but when someone's trading this way, they don't actually know what they're doing sometimes, right? And it's not always going to be as perfect. Yeah, I'm going to go make a YouTube channel about being a pro retail trader, bro. I could literally go teach retail right now. But that's basically what retail does, and that's why we are different. I mean, we are still retail. We always have been, but we are also doing it with a cause and purpose, okay? So that basically warrants the end of webinar 4. Thank you so much, guys, for whoever stayed behind. I'm going to stop the recording now, and this will be up to you guys and available by either the end of today or tomorrow. All right.